Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Monette Ferguson, Executive Director for Alliance for Community Empowerment, and welcome back to our regular live stream, Alliance Allies. Thank you for joining us today. Today's show is where on Alliance Allies is where we introduce our community partners and introduce folks who help us every single day in reaching our mission and getting resources to the community. On today's show, one of our key partners will be introduced to you, and we'll talk about an important partnership that will have impact across the entire community. Before we hear from our special guest today, I'd like to have respect and reverence for the day for Martin Luther King Jr. I'm like babbling today. Let's take a moment to reflect on what he has done and he and other great Americans have done for us all. Now I'd like to share some important information about programs here at Alliance. Please remember that our supportive service block grant, we're going to go right back to energy assistance. Our energy assistance program is actively taking applications. You could call us anytime, leave your information on our voicemail. I know sometimes it's hard to get through and it's hard for us to get back to you, but please, please, please do not lose faith. We have every intention of helping community members stay warm for the winter. So this program is open, it's actively taking applications, and it'll be ongoing until May 2021. In addition to energy assistance, our child care programs are open and taking applications. Our programs are safe, they are respecting CDC guidelines, and we are open for parents and community members to try to receive or get back to some sort of normalcy during this pandemic by having their children in safe, quality care. In addition, we're now ready to restart the GED program at the Trumbull Gardens Community Center. There will be adult ed classes there beginning next week. I know we've had a pause in these services, but we are anxious and ready to restart. If you are interested in receiving information about the Trumbull Gardens adult GED classes, please call the Bridgeport Board of Ed or the information you see on the screen. In addition, we also have our Trumbull Gardens Alliance Supportive Service Partnership. This partnership is open, or these resources are open and available to all residents of Trumbull Garden, including community members that have needs for any of the resources that they see on the screen, we are happy to help. In addition, we'd like community members to take advantage of our COVID-19 CARES Act funding. This funding is available for community members that qualify, that have issues related directly to the pandemic. This can help with difficulties in losing income, housing, mortgage assistance, food assistance, transportation, utility help, and other necessities directly related to COVID. We also want to remind the community that we are equipped and ready to assist with anyone who needs to complete a SNAP application. We know that during this pandemic, it's been very difficult for families that are struggling with food insecurities, and the SNAP program is here to help. We also want to remind community members that Alliance is a proud partner in administering the Social Service Block Grant. This is case management for those who qualify. The qualifications are on the screen, and we are happy to assist any community member with any of the issues that they see on the flyer. Now I'd like to welcome and introduce our new Alliance allies. Her name is Attorney Erin Kemple. She is the Executive Director of Connecticut Fair Housing Center. The mission of Connecticut Fair Housing Center is to ensure that all people have equal access to housing opportunities in Connecticut that are free from discrimination. Our new partnership with Connecticut Fair Housing will be described during the interview. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and to talk about our new collaboration to ensure that people in your constituency are not prevented from losing their homes.
Absolutely, it's great to have you. First, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have been doing both legal services and fair housing work since I started my legal career in 1985. I was with Western Mass Legal Services for about 10 years, and then a group of us started a fair housing organization in Holyoke, Mass. I became the executive director of that in 1994 and left there in 2003 to come to Connecticut to lead the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. During the course of my time here at the center, we have quadrupled our budget and tripled the number of people on staff, as well as expanded our programs. So when I began at the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, we were really concentrating only on rental and home ownership discrimination. During the first few years that I was here at the center, we began seeing a large number of people of color who were scared of losing their homes to foreclosure. And from there, we began a foreclosure prevention project in an effort to ensure that neighborhoods of color and people of color were not going to be put out of their homes without process. Most recently, we have started an eviction prevention program, and that's where we're going to collaborate with the Alliance, because what we know is that people of color have been hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, excuse me, including losing their jobs, and now we are concerned that they will lose their homes. So we, as an organization, believe that it is part of our mission to assist people in staying in their homes if at all possible, and if not, in helping them make a safe and orderly transition to alternative housing.
Thank you for sharing that great information. I'd like to really quickly say that I was introduced to Attorney Kemple and her staff by just simply asking a question: where are the gaps? It is the duty of community action not to duplicate services, but to really add seasoning and accent, if you will, to the experts already doing the work and amplify and bolster those activities so we reach as many community members as possible. So I could say I was very pleased to meet Erin and her staff member Finn, and we had a deep, lengthy conversation about what has been described by my peers and also by the experts as a tsunami that is coming our way of folks that are going to be affected by eviction and mortgage, just really, when I say mortgage foreclosure would be the better word, and really affecting everything that folks do. If you don't have, we talk about basic needs a lot on the show, and housing being a basic need, if folks don't have that, it really puts a damper on everything else that they try to strive for. So can you talk a little bit about this tsunami situation and how bad are things, Erin, or will they be?
So just before we got on the call, my colleague Finn Darby Hutchins sent me some statistics. So the Census Bureau is now doing what it's calling the Pulse Survey, which is done about every 4 to 6 weeks, looking at three categories with regards to eviction. There's other information, but three categories with regards to eviction. The first is whether or not people feel that it is very likely that they will lose their housing or be unable to pay their rent during the next 2 to 3 months. The second category is whether or not people think it is likely that they will be unable to pay their rent or lose their housing in the next 2 to 3 months. And then the last category is people who are not at all concerned about losing their housing or not being able to pay their rent. So what we know from the latest Pulse survey is that 15% of respondents believe that they will either be put out of their housing or be unable to pay the rent within the next 2 to 3 months. And of those people, 95% of them are either Black or Latino. So as I was saying earlier, we know that the tsunami of evictions is going to hit people in the communities of color hardest. The next category and the largest number of people who responded said that they were likely to be unable to pay the rent and would face eviction in the next 2 to 3 months. And that was 38,000 households who said that they were likely to face eviction in the next 2 to 3 months. And of that group, again, about 90% were people of color. And finally, in the last group, about 15% of the total sample population said that they were not at all worried about losing their housing or being unable to pay the rent. And of that last group, none of them was a person of color. So I think this really emphasizes the fact that this is a crisis of the Black and Latino communities. And my fear is that because it's a crisis of the Black and Latino communities, it is not getting the attention or the assistance that is needed in order to avert this crisis.
Well, we are here to partner and not to just bring awareness to this issue, but also to build an alliance to help to solve this issue. We know this is very reminiscent of what Dr. King and a lot of other folks have done and will do, and it's just uplifting the oppressed. And ensuring that they get the resource they need so they don't stay in the same condition as what the system has been kind of made out for them to be in. So let's talk a little bit about our specific partnership and how we plan to, I guess, hold off this tsunami and try to restructure and send this wave in another direction.
So I really appreciated the way that your agency approaches things and the way that we were able to develop the partnership, because we began with looking, as you said, at the holes in services. Where was the need? And while we know that the need is in communities of color in particular, and particularly those communities in urban centers, one of the things that we were trying to address when we first started talking is what can assist those tenants? What can prevent them from losing their housing? And one of the things that we know can prevent them from losing their housing is information about their rights. So often when a tenant gets a notice to quit or a notice that says, I'm going to give you a notice to quit, the tenant goes into panic mode. They may try and get assistance from legal services. But as we know, there isn't enough free legal assistance out there. And so one of the things that we all talked about is just doing an education campaign. Receiving a notice to quit or receiving a warning that you're going to receive a notice to quit doesn't mean that you have to leave. Even when the notice to quit runs out, you still don't have to leave, because the only one who can make you leave is a judge. And a judge means that you have to go to court, and a judge has to make a decision about your case before you're obligated to lose your home. So that's the first thing I think is really important, is just educating people about their rights. And I think that's where our partnership is somewhat unique, in that we're not just going to train the tenants themselves, but also people on your staff, so that if they come across a parent who's using your child care services, who's saying, I'm going to have to withdraw my child, and you find out, for instance, oh, it's because they are moving because they're being evicted, that person can be referred to the rest of your staff for some assistance with regarding eviction. You also, as you said at the beginning of the broadcast, have some money that you have in order to be able to assist tenants who may be behind in their rent. And we'll talk in a few minutes about the state and federal programs on that. But that is also a way that your agency can identify who's needed and identify the resources that they need in order to be able to stay housed. Once that initial education is done, one of the things we're looking to your staff to do is to help us triage who needs help. So one of the things that you and I have talked about is that while it is possible for your staff, none of whom are attorneys or practicing in the eviction landlord-tenant field, can do is refer people to the center in order to get legal advice, if there's more that's needed in order to ensure that the person knows everything they need to know. And finally, one of the things that we're also going to be doing is training private attorneys to appear with tenants in the mediation program that is required by the courts before a case moves forward. So one of the things that we have found is that when a tenant goes into mediation unrepresented, they may not know that they have, for instance, an option to pay current rent for a month or so and stay in place until they can find something else. Or maybe what the tenant really needs is a security deposit in first month's rent to facilitate a move to another place. Those are all the things that are possible to get in mediation, and yet a lot of tenants, I think, are afraid to ask or are afraid to find out if what they can do, or don't know where to find out. And so I think our program in particular is going to be a way to ensure that more people are able to stay in their housing, as well as, if they have to move, to make a more orderly transition to more appropriate housing.
Absolutely. Thank you for so clearly and eloquently explaining our partnership. From the moment we met, the knowledge and the expertise just kind of spews from you and your staff. And it's such a comfort to know that there's folks in this space that understand what folks are going through, the fear, the words that you use that are just human emotions that meant a lot to me as a leader, to connect with another leader that understands that it's bigger than just being evicted. It's bigger than not being able to pay a month's rent. There is an effect on the heart and soul of folks who are not able to make ends meet. So I really appreciate that that sympathetic, empathetic feeling that you all put into your work, and it'll resonate through our partnership. So our last question is really kind of gets down to the heart of the matter. So what do you think is the best case scenario in moving forward with thinking about our partnership and all the great work you all do across the state? When I talk to my partners in Norwalk, they tout all the great work you all do there. We should know that it's statewide that you do your work. It's not a focus on one city, town, or county. So you have a lot on your plate. So let's talk about the best case scenario and what the center does overall to help what's going to be happening and moving forward.
So with regards to the eviction crisis, I think the first thing that we need is an extension on the eviction moratorium. One of the things that a lot of people do not know or maybe may not understand is that Connecticut's eviction moratorium is scheduled to end on February 9th. And the reason for that particular date is that that's when the governor's emergency powers end. So after February 9th, unless the legislature grants him additional power, his ability to do things like put in an eviction moratorium will end. I saw some articles in the paper today that said the majority of the legislature is in favor of extending his emergency powers, but that doesn't automatically mean that he's going to extend the eviction moratorium. So we need to absolutely extend the eviction moratorium in order to stop evictions from happening. In addition to that, there have been a lot of exceptions that have been issued as part of the eviction moratorium. So now, instead of just saying no eviction can go forward, there are at least 4 or 5 exceptions to the eviction moratorium. And what we're seeing is more than 100 eviction cases filed in court every week since the end of October. And so we're starting to see the number of evictions going up. So we need the eviction moratorium to be extended, but without any of the exceptions. Finally, the state is going to be receiving $237 million in order to create another rental assistance program. We are urging the state to create a program that moves quickly. What we know about the last program, called the Temporary Rental Housing Assistance Program, or TRAP, what we know about that program is that it took 2 months, from July 15th to September 15th, to get 2 people through the process. And while the program sped up after September 15th, the state was unable to get $13 million out the door by the time the program ended on December 3rd. And so we need a program that is easily administered, moves quickly, and also pays rent in the future. Because the program was so slow originally, by the time many tenants were contacted about their eligibility, they owed at least $4,000 in a rent arrearage, which was the total amount that tenants were allowed to get through the program. So we need to have a program that focuses on paying rent in the future, because what we know is that a lot of landlords did not want to participate in the program if they couldn't be assured that the tenant would pay rent in the future, and that a lot of tenants still have not gone back to work, either because their jobs haven't recalled them, or because they're teaching their children at home, or for other reasons such as COVID-19 exposure or illness that is preventing them from going back to work full time. So that's what we think should happen in the future. We're working with a coalition of people to ensure that the program is created in a way that assists the most people as quickly as possible, and that tenants don't lose their home as a result.
That is super hopeful, and the Alliance stands by you in your efforts, and we are partners. Any partner of the Alliance is always a partner for life, and we see the importance of this work, and we are here to help move the needle forward. One of the viewers would like to know, how can they get in touch with Connecticut Fair Housing? Can you share a number or website where folks can connect with your staff?
So if you want information about our call to action, which was up on the screen for a while, or about the organization itself, you can go to www.ctfairhousing.org. If you need assistance with a fair housing complaint or a foreclosure, you can call 860-247-4400, or email us at info@ctfairhousing.org.
Thank you, Erin. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show today, and it has been one of our, well, I would have to say right now, we do this every show, and it's a part of how we welcome our partners into the fold. I'm going to present you with our Alliance Ally baseball cap, and you are mandated to wear this in public. No, I'm just kidding.
If
Um,
I go out in public again, I'll wear it.
if you go in public, right? You can wear it
Yeah,
around the house too. But it's just a little keepsake, and we'll be mailing this out to you, letting
thank
you
you.
know what an important partner you are and how much we really appreciate your service.
Well, we look forward to getting started with our alliance. We still haven't gotten all the pieces in place because there's additional work that we have to do before that happens, but we are hoping that we will be on, someone from my office will be on shortly to talk about some of the progress that we're making.
Absolutely, absolutely. We look forward to it. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
So thank you all. I hope we shared some good information for everyone today. We know that the eviction foreclosure situation is a serious situation, and the Alliance is here with a partner and a plan. I'd like to just remind everyone to check out our website, to like us on Facebook, and to follow us on Instagram. We'll see you next month.